Shalom, Yashala, giving all praises to Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Rakakadash, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, double honors to the apostles, elders, bishops, great millstone, much salutation to the brothers teaching word for the hopeful elect, soon to be elect, most high will, to the hopeful extended elect, Shalom. Blessings, men, women, and children. We're in the, those, we're all always in those holiday seasons of America, which are wicked. Today, so-called, was to them Thanksgiving. We call it Thanksgiving. But on another similar topic relating to the controversy with the tribes like the Native Americans, so-called Native Americans, which is Gadites, part of the 12 tribes of Israel. I mentioned the Cowboys and the Indians, the Cowboys versus the Indians, and that was a mockery too. I think they had some controversial subjects, public discussions about that, about the term Indians, which Indian goes back to savage, I believe. But especially with the football team, Cowboys, NFL football team, Cowboys, and the Redskins. So this is a five-pointed star, which is the symbol of Baphomet, pretty much, as you see this this character, and they have this in museums as statues. It's a man with a goat head. Basically, it's a androgynous, if I'm saying it right, androgynous creature, basically. The head of a goat, got female breath, wings of an eagle, or what have you. And those are that they use that, as you see his left hand, the symbol in his left hand is a Illuminati hand gesture. You can see that with all the presidents, or they'll have one hand in their coat pocket, left coat pocket, right hand in their left coat pocket. They did it in school. I don't know if they still do the Pledge of Allegiance in school, but when you did the pledge, you put your hand over your heart, which, and they all repeated that Pledge of Allegiance. They all repeated the pledge at the same time, which, was all in one accord. I didn't never like to do that. I don't think I didn't do that. As far as I remember, if the teacher was looking, I think I would pretend, I would like go ahead, but I would try to get away with best possible not to be a part of that. You was a little kid, so, but I knew it was some eerie about that. Anyway, so if you have the American football team, which is Dallas Cowboys, you have the uniform, and you'll see the Baphomet right here. You'll see, and this is not this is nothing like a star. A star is a gaseous element. It's nothing. It had nothing to do with looking like this. I mean, you put stars, the galaxies in Google is anyway. But this is the five-pointed star, and this is same thing as what I showed you right here with the what do they call it? Someone. Let me see. Samuel. Samael, Lilith. Um, these are the statues. I think this is supposed to be a Jake on the right hand, a so-called Negro on the right hand of the Baphomet statue. This was recently put in Oklahoma City Museum as well as other museums across the world. I don't know what particular museums. They probably got this in some schools, and that could be a Edomite, but yeah, I tried this demon. Um, and if you type up celebrities and Baphomet, that's how you pronounce it. Let me go ahead and get the definition of Baphomet right quick. See what they see what pops up. Baphomet, invented pagan or Gnostic idol or deity that Templars were accused of worshiping and that was later embraced by various court and mystical writers. First known mention of Baphomet was in a letter written in 1098 by Anselm of Rebamont, describing the siege of Antioch during the First Crusade. So Baphomet is a figure rooted in the occult and Western esoteric, esoteric traditions. I'll tell you, my English is, when you don't read a lot, your English can get bad, you know, especially if you're not used to pronouncing some of these words. But this is not our language anyway, so I really don't care for, as long as I, you know, speak those things well to be understood, like, more of the common words that people understand this, and the point is being made, the the understanding is there. Yeah, yeah, whatever. So it says the name first emerged in the 14th century during the trials of the Knights Templar, and the order was accused of heresy, for worshiping Baphomet as a demonic idol. And you get that word androgynous. Levi's Baphomet is characterized as an androgynous anthropomorphic entity with a human body, goat's head, goat's legs, and black wings. In the center of the goat head is a pentagram nested between the two large horns from which an erect lit torch emerges. And I'm pretty sure it got deeper meaning, going back to Illuminati, going back to those who ruled the world, the elite body of, you know, this that rules the world, rules, America. Just got to do some research, But we understand this, for the common knowledge, especially when we uh, address this information to people, to those that are listening. It's a very simple go-to description of Baphomet, as you see depicted in these images, and it's the worship of androgynous creature, man. So, it ties into, Esau he rules the world. He's the red man in the Bible. He's the devil the Bible speaks of, so-called white man, and he plays these roles. This is one of the roles he played. One of the, you know, uh, characters in the Most High movie that he plays. That's a part of his whole program, his whole ruling system. Even going into the New World Order is about all this wickedness and symbolic meanings that go into devil worshiping. like this. So you have a lot of the biggest games. America's team, Dallas Cowboys. You have the biggest games when they um, challenge or play the Redskins, which is supposed to be a so-called Native American term that was became a controversy to the Native Americans themselves. Is I think is you could look that up too. Uh, Redskin controversy. And I won't go too deep into it, but Redskin controversy. Washington Redskins, which is the Washington Redskins. Uh, Redskins is a pejorative, 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 slang term considered by some of the to be a racial slur for Native Americans in the United States and First Nations in Canada. The term Redskin underwent pejoration through the 19th to early 20th centuries, and in the contemporary dictionaries of American English, it is labeled as offensive, disparaging, or insulting. The Cambridge Dictionary defines the word as an extremely offensive word for the Native American, a member of one of the groups of people who were living in North and South America before Europeans arrived. And I don't think it points out like what key offense or what those key offenses are. I mean, I'm pretty sure it has to do with the blood and the murder of, you know, many millions and millions of so-called Native Americans, which are the Gadites, Seminole Indians, so forth, the indigenous tribes. But I don't think they give that as a means of why it's an offense. But even being called Redskins, if it has anything to do, which they probably wouldn't broadcast that or let that be known in any public matter, that it has something to do with them scalping the so-called Native Americans and the Redskins, like scalping their heads off, which the Europeans did, so-called Europeans did, the so-called white men did. Um, it also, I mean, in terms of even Oklahoma, meaning the red people, if it is an offensive term, if it is a mockery um, of putting a label on them, putting a stigma on them as being red people because of their skin color, which I think doesn't have anything to do with it. But it may. I mean, probably like that and the blood, but they're not really red people. And, Esau would try to control that narrative to make people believe that these are red people of the earth. And then if you go into the Bible, it talks about a red man being born, a red child being born, named Esau. So, but I don't ever remember them calling the so-called Native Americans Edomites. So it might have been, only relating to whatever it is besides that, which to me it seemed like it would relate to, like I said, them scalping the Native Americans, and therefore the blood, the red, and therefore Redskins. Um, and that's in the scriptures too. Scalping. I might get that, on another video. Um, but a little bit more information. It says in July 2020, amid the removal of many names and images as part of the George Floyd protests, a group of investors worth $620 billion wrote letters to major sponsors Nike, FedEx, and PepsiCo, encouraging pressure on the Redskins to change their name. FedEx was called on the team to change its name on July 2nd, 2020. The same day, Nike removed Redskins apparel from its website. Uh, I mean, you can see their logo, Redskin. I'm gonna pop up their logo. See the images, you know. And like I said, if you big this up, they're not red, they're brown people, just like our people, just like the rest of the tribes of Israel, light skin, the brown, and when you get into the Israelite foreigners part, they could look like so-called white people. But this is the core images of uh, 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 a lot of what our people look like. So also, I think it was concerning the mockery too about the flags that were being waved with the feathers and the mascots and the people that the fans that were wearing them, the makeup, the paint, which was a thing of this, so-called Native Americans. Think of our people too. You'll find painting the face in the scriptures, a such thing as painting the face, which a lot of women did in harlotry. But our people was known for that too, going off. You know, I don't really think of makeup as a real wicked thing. It's not especially a sin unto death, but it comes with, as personally speaking, as a man, it comes with it could come with deceit. It can come with you know pretty much a reason to change your outward appearance unnaturally to cover up something else, which may be shame or something, just like wearing a mask to rob a bank. You put on makeup, to look like someone you don't, or maybe to imitate someone you're not, or even with women, when they seduce a man, they put on the makeup. So, but if you go back to the costumes of the so-called Native Americans, you'll see a lot of, and a lot of times they call it war paint, but you'll see them painting their face, along with the costumes, fringes. Let me put it in right quick. So that was a part of uh, that was part of the offenses too. See, that's some depictions right here. And the fans would do that. They would dress like that. So they would consider it offensive mockery. And it's not the only, I mean, we've been mocked all kind of ways, man. And that's one of the curses too. They don't understand that. As one of the curses said, you shall be a byword among all nations. Let me go there right quick. It says Deuteronomy 28:37, which goes into our curses starting at 15. Says, if we did not do the commandments of the Most High, follow His commandments and the statutes and laws, of statutes, commandments which He commanded this day, all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. And this is one of the curses, and as is followed by the rest of them from 15 on down, verse 15 on down. This is 37. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whither the Lord shall lead thee. And you look up byword, look up byword in this, get the word for it. Let me play that again.
Strong's H8148. Sheni na. Sheni na.
Shani na. Shana ya na. Shana. It sounds like shenanigans a little bit, but Shanya Sha na yana. Shayanaya. Shayanaya. Bit of kind of tongue twister right here. It says Shanag. No. No, it's something else. Well, it's the same thing, but it's sharp word, sharp cutting word, like an offense. Like it's like people were like, damn, I wasn't ready for that. It was just sharp, straight to the point, blunt. Like you know, just an offensive word, byword, a taunt, something pointed. Like offense hurts. Like you offended me. Uh, Sharp cutting word. So that's what that is. And it comes in images too. You know, it comes in different displays of mannerism. Like that can be well as offensive, hurtful, without saying a word. Like you know, it says they say the pictures speak 1,000 words. So um, a lot of times these images speak volumes, like blackface and you know such offensive. Now you got, let me see, I'm gonna put in Native American Redskins fans, and you'll see them just like here we go right here. This is offensive, and I can see that, and that's why they're part of the 12 tribes of Israel, because Judah go through this all the time too with blackface and you know dressing up. They made the clown with the big nose and afro, red afro. I mean, McDonald's is a mockery. McDonald's mascot is a mockery to Jake. That clown and shit. Big black feet. Big nose and an afro. But these are similar images that are that they call offensive to the Native Americans, which screams out, which same thing as byword. Um, yeah, and look at Esau. He's just goofy with it, which makes it worse. you know. And Esau, they love dressing as pigs, and like they not the people of the Most High. They just love doing the very opposite of what the Most High says do. You know, and these are the same dudes that have wives. They could be decently pretty wives and all that, with no problem. Jake do this, he getting talked about. He might lose his wife. Anyway, but this is what it become a mockery, and this is what a part of the controversy. Look at him. He probably thinking about it like, can't believe I sat in the so-called the black dude and shit. These people, you know. I guess there's a group called the Hoggets keeps an eye of action during the Hoggets. I don't know what the hell it is, but yeah. So um, was the Washington Redskins controversy? What was the Washington Redskins controversy about? The Washington Redskins controversy centered on the team's name and logo being considered a racial slur and offensive stereotype of Native Americans. Decades of pressure from Native American groups and a cultural reckoning in 2020 eventually forced the team to change its name to the Washington Commanders. Like I said, it's not being specific really, you know, um, but I'm pretty sure it has everything to do with them being slaughtered, you know, and even the skin tone, you know, even the skin tone, man. So it's probably a double whammy against them. So they were really bothered and really offended by that, and they changed the team's name. I think even other logos or let me see. The primary issue was the word redskin as a pejorative, 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 pejorative slang term for Native Americans, considered as an offensive racial slur in contemporary American English. Dictionaries label the term as disparaging, insulting, or taboo. But there has to be a reason. Critics argue that the name associated imagery, including a logo modeled after a Blackfoot chief, perpetuated harmful, one-dimensional stereotype of Native American people and cultures, which research indicated could have negative psychological effects on Native American youth. And with that saying, you know, it's like I said, they still have powwows um, narrated by the so-called white man. They still have they got a lot of Native Americans, so-called Native Americans. We could say so-called Native American because they're really Gadites, but they still celebrate Thanksgiving. So you know, it's always a portion of people that protest about these things, that have a problem with these things, try to go public, sue, whatever the case may be, to bring some kind of justice. But overall, as a nation, even as dealing with the inner core of Native American alone, uh, it really just doesn't make any sense. I mean, you know, to have one flag taken down because of offensive, and then you got other flags still waved that's not fought for, that goes on the same lines of being offensive to the whole indigenous people. So I just don't really I do understand, but overall, that's why we always speak in terms of Israel as a whole, and that part that we speak separately about. I mean, concerning salvation is the elect, but we do, when we mention talk about subjects, we mention our people as a whole too, and that's why we mention 2/3. Um, so a lot of these people that they kind of like common ground people fall into the crack between the cracks of America, that kind of bothered and offended by some stereotypes and by some things that may ruffle their feathers, and and they might seek some kind of justice for it. But it's always going to be those curses. There's always going to be some offensive that the so-called white man does to our people as a whole, even as indigenous people, even going back to the history and then displaying those same images in cartoons and shows, movies, and so forth, or just being treated like that in person when you go into the store of some of these nations or at a reservation or at a casino or at a some kind of place, hotel, so wherever you are, you're gonna catch that the heat of those curses, and it's always gonna be that. So you know, yeah, something you might be able to win a little bit, but overall, if your people whole the whole body of Israel is not free, the whole nation, so to speak, is not free, uh, then that what's the point of anything, man? That's why we talk about the elect because they represent the whole nation on this side. 12,000 from every tribe of Israel. So that's the whole nation on this side right now of the elect. And then, well, they have that foundation in the kingdom. And then the children are born of the loins of